What's up, guys? Hope you guys are doing good. This video we're going to be talking about this bike right here. That is not mine, but I've been working on it for about 3 weeks straight, and I got it put back together the other day, and I'll tell you the story behind this bike, and then we'll go over all the little parts and pieces. So I moved it a little bit so that we could see all the shiny pieces. But what this bike is a 19, I think this is an 87 883 4-speed, and this was my bike probably 12 years ago, maybe longer than that. And I sold it to one of my buddies, whose name is Moby. When I was in the Marine Corps, I sold it to one of my Marine Corps buddies back then. And when we got out of the Marine Corps 11 years ago, he moved up here to the foothills of North Carolina, and we both went to college, and he was riding this bike to college every day, and I was riding my 883 5-speed that I have, and sometimes my chopper, and sometimes the old Dyna that I had. But getting sidetracked, he slowly customized this thing. It was pretty much stock back in the day. Slowly this thing turned into what it is now. It had a sissy bar, a different sissy bar, and a different tank the first round of customization. And then he took this thing to Prison Motorcycles, which is a shop here in North Carolina in Charlotte. And that's why it looks like this. My buddy Moby was doing some DoD contracting, and he was moving a lot, and life was busy. And he said, man, I don't know what to do with this bike. I'm moving so much and I'm going so much. And I, of course I said, just leave it at my house. I'll ride it. And that was a while ago. And I was riding it one day, and it quit. And then I ended up having another baby, or not me, my wife did. We ended up having another kid, and then moving again, and life got crazy busy up until about 4 years ago. And about 4 years ago, I took it up to one of my buddies' house, and we went through this thing pretty much as best we could. And my buddy Chris helped me convert this thing over to points from electronic ignition. He rewired it. He did a bunch of trick wiring. So all the wiring lives back in here in a little fuse panel. And then for the past 3 weeks, I have been going through this thing and touching every little part and piece. I put a mud guard back on the rear fender to keep some of the trash off of the electrics in the back of the motor. And just serviced this thing and got the wheel spacers spaced up correctly. That was an issue with this thing. But basically, I'm getting this thing ready to go back to my buddy Moby, probably in a month or two, once we figure out how to get it up to West Virginia, because I think he's going to be staying put up there for a while. Doing some laps on it, making sure that it's running good, and nothing's, it's not going to quit on my buddy when he take it up there to West Virginia. But an 883 4-speed is like one of the most fun bikes, in my opinion, to ride. I like 883s. My other bike that I ride the most is an 883. This thing is not going to win drag races, but you can ride it all day for nothing. And I mean, it's got enough power to go the speed limit. It's got enough power to go 70, 80 miles an hour. And with the 4-speed gearbox, once you, around here, the curvy kind of foothills roads we have here, once you get in 4th gear, you can kind of just leave it in 4th gear and cruise, and pretty much you're not doing a bunch of changing. But let's do a front to back with this thing. So up front, he's got the Shinko. He's got the old cast wheels. I just put him some new bearings in there and spaced his front wheel out correctly so that it's not loose on the front axle anymore. I didn't replace the seals because I'm probably going to be changing these lowers back to a front brake lower. But he's got right at 6 over forks, and if you measure them to the stock model of this bike, they're actually about 8 over. But extended front forks, and then just a kind of a cheap headlight, not a super bright headlight. This headlight just mounts on that bottom tree. There's just a nut back there. It's just a hole drilled through there. And then these bars are Zombie Performance. These came off of my buddy Chris's bike. He welded the bungs on there, and it's honestly probably one of the more comfortable riding bikes I have ever ridden. I really like the way these bars feel. They're about perfect. Honestly, want to change my 5-speed 883. I want to kind of just copy this bike, basically, because I like riding it so much. But Zombie Performance bars, he's got some Biltwell grips on here. I thought about changing these, but there's nothing wrong with them. I just don't like how big around they are. He's got the Biltwell throttle. This is one of the early ones they made. Really nice throttle. I may rotate that down a little bit more, but I just put some silicone grease in here, and this thing is really slippery. That's why I don't like how big around the grips are, is because the whole time I'm riding it, it's so well lubricated that you can feel it. It's like hitting a bunch of bumps with your foot on the gas. And anyway, so I may rotate this down a little bit more, may change the grips before I send it, but that's the setup right now. They feel pretty good. I'm probably not gonna mess with them. And I switched back over to a stock Harley clutch lever. They had one of those aftermarket ones on there, and they just suck. It's hard to beat how well these work. And I put a new nylon bushing in there and put a new anti-rattle clip in there, and man, it's hard to beat a stock Harley. And then I've got this, I think it's Pro 1 cable lube that I lube the cables with, and it's working really well. And then for the gas tank, this is a lowbrow Frisco Sportster tank. Mounts up front here, mounts back here. And then my buddy wanted these sight gauges. We used to work on airplanes together, and he thought these sight gauges look cool. I think they do too. And he put one on there, and it lets you know how much gas you have. It works pretty good. I'm gonna clean that gas off of the tank, but pretty nice paint on there. Gray paint, matched the rear fender. It's kind of just a crusty bike, so it's not meant to be super clean. But on the carb, it's just stock CV carb. Went through it and cleaned it, and it's got this little prism. I think they make this choke mount that relocates the choke right there. Works pretty good. I think this is just a cheap TC Bros air cleaner. These early Evo motors didn't have their breather bolts up here. It just had this breather bolt, so these can be solid bolts. And then that's our point set up, and my buddy Chris made that clear points cover Lexan. It's working pretty good. It's kind of cracked up top. Sean actually made, or Moby actually made these foot pegs when we were in machine shop class back in the day. I just filled that back up and bled the rear brakes. Having one brakes with not a lot of fluid in there is not good, but it's just a stock mid setup, stock rear brake. Works really well now that I've put some fluid in there and bled them. And then some long drag pipes, and back in the day we cut off about, I think it was like 6 or 7 inches off of this rear drag pipe so that it'd quit hitting off of stuff. It's chain drive. I think they actually were chain drive from the factory. And then just some factory shocks. I think these are 12 inches. The rear fender is chopped a little bit, and then I just reinstalled one of these mud guards. That's one of the things that I did. It's just some rivets, but it's kind of hard to find on eBay. But one of these plastic mud guards is just going to keep all that shit off the back of the motor. And it's got an oil leak. That with the mixture of stuff from the road gets all over that wire, and that's why I put that back on there. But the rear fender's chopped a little bit, and it's matched to the tank. This is one of the first Prism seats back in the day too. Really nice seats. Not the most comfortable thing, but it does look cool, which is more important than comfort most of the time. Shinko 270 in the back, so Shinko front and rear. I think the Shinkos with the cast wheels look awesome. I'm actually building a 4-speed right now and running the same wheel setup, and Shinkos, it's going to pretty much be like this but with a hardtail. So I like these wheels so much that I'm putting them on a bike that I'm building. And then out back, this is our tail light and license plate, but it's just a Prism light and then their weld-on plate there. Works awesome. I really like this setup. And then over here, this is where all our electrics live, right behind this panel. My buddy machined some spacers there that this little panel, these actually screw into it, and your starter button's right there. Key switch is right here on this little bracket. Got that Loctited down. That was kind of rolling around too. And then just really simple wiring. Cool, relocated to right there. But it's just a really fun bike. Again, I like 883s, especially the 4-speeds. They're just a lot of fun to ride. They're a little quirky compared to the 5-speed ones, but around here in the foothills of North Carolina, these are really fun bikes. But I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown of this old, crusty 4-speed Sportster. Not a chopper, but definitely not stock. I've been trying to talk him into hardtailing it here lately, but I think it honestly works so good the way it is, and it's so much fun to ride. I would probably leave it like this myself too. But let me know down in the comments what you think about this. Hope you guys enjoyed it again. I'll see you later.